everything you need to know about the Ichiban Holdings management side story. Here's where you start off, here's where you end up after progressing far enough. The side story begins around chapter 5, it's how you level up Eri Kamataki, and it's one of the better ways you can make tons of money in Like a Dragon as a whole. You start off with only one building to manage and a small handful of associates to watch over. The ultimate objective is to claw your way to the #1 ranking. The higher your rank, the more money you make each shareholder meeting after opening for business 5 times. Going from top to bottom, first you have your properties. You can either assign people you hire to certain properties, upgrade those properties so they accumulate more money, sell properties so you can buy more expensive ones, which yet again allows you to make more money, or buy new properties where you can do all of the aforementioned. Each property has a certain amount of product, service, and nobility required in order to make additional money, and there are 2 ways to reach those thresholds: upgrading and assigning employees with the right attributes to said properties. Each property will have 1 leader and 2 members. Leaders are allowed to use all 3 of their attributes to improve the property's required values, whereas members can only use 1 of those 3. So picking and choosing who goes where is very important, needless to say. In the beginning, it's all going to be about making the most of the buildings you have. Don't worry about selling anything, just buy what you can and keep your employees happy. And speaking of which, managing your employees has a surprising degree of difficulty to it, so listen close. By looking at the profile of your employee, you can understand a lot about what's going on. You can see their background, their attributes, their command cost, which to me is the only stat of these 3 that actually matters any. What level they are, what property they're currently assigned to, their mood, their position, their salary, all of which has its own complexity and meaning. As I said before with the whole leader versus member spiel, picking and choosing who goes where is no easy task. People who have a lot of every stat should be the leader. Those who are only good at 1 stat should stay as members. They all start off as part-time employees, but have the option to be promoted to a higher position, which allows them to improve their attributes and be more productive in those oh-so-important shareholder meetings. More on that later. Generally, you only want 1 director or higher per property, and then have everyone else be no higher than a full-time employee. Reason being, after every time you open for business, your employees get tired and need additional funds to function properly. And as you can probably guess, the higher ranked they are, the exponentially more costly it is to make them happy. And the cheapest time to make everybody happy is immediately after opening 1 time. Using the auto care function works wonders, by the way. After promoting an employee, they still have to gain the experience on their own. That is unless you hire a trainer to fast forward the learning process for them. There will be times where training will be cheaper and more effective, along with making more money via advertising, which, if the option ever comes up for that, always take it. And while we're on the subject, you will be given the option to invest in other up-and-coming businesses which offer higher returns if their business works out. But frankly, it's just not worth it, so I'd steer clear of it. And if need be, you have the option of firing employees for a handful of reasons, but they can still be brought back later if you have a change of heart. Just remember that if you do fire employees, everybody else on your staff will see that and not be happy about it. And yeah, the recruit option doesn't really need to be explained all that much. And at last, you have the big one, the shareholder meeting. The boardroom is a great way of showing you what you'll be up against, along with reasons why your shareholders may or may not be happy with how you're managing your business. The happier they are, the easier it will be to shut them up in the meeting. The whole game behind the shareholder meeting is to use your board members to argue against the evil shareholders and win them over with an overall approval rating of 75 or higher. The higher the levels of your board members, the more effectively they can argue against the shareholders. But in order to argue against the shareholders, they use what is known as command cost. The cheaper the command cost is for a given board member, the better. But don't forget, you're still running a business. You still gotta make sure they fit in somewhere. The best board member lineup I could come up with was Tome Kamataki from Sales, Ikari from Net Worth, Substory 11, Omelette from Net Worth, and Hatari the Ninja from Employee Management. It's important to have at least 1 person from each category because in order to counter one type of argument, you often need another. Take the counters chart for example. Red destroys green, green destroys blue, blue destroys red. And if you have no other option, the same colors can still do okay against one another. Which leads us to the meeting itself. In the beginning, you will have a full command cost meter and all of the shareholders wanting to ask you questions. When you select one, they'll throw up an argument colored green, blue, or red, along with someone they're targeting. The goal is to break their argument in 2 turns before the shareholder is left unsatisfied, lowering your approval rating. And remember the class counters. If they throw up a green argument, spam red. After breaking their argument, you can then take the offensive, spamming damage based on the class counters, seen here. If you manage to take one of the shareholders down, your approval rating will skyrocket. But to be honest, in the beginning, there is no shame in just breaking their argument and leaving it at that. Your employees are just not leveled enough to take the offensive. You would be better off playing entirely defense if you can help it. And when it comes to groveling for forgiveness, I'd recommend only doing so on level 2 or higher. After the meeting is over, you move up in the rankings, get a bonus, and rinse and repeat until you're at number 1. And that's it, really. I personally was able to beat the side story by chapter 6, but just know the longer you wait to beat the side story, the easier it's gonna be getting to number 1. I just wanted the money. Anyways, thanks for watching, and have a great day. Later, peoples.